Hello and welcome to the Silent Evil Podcast. I'm Spencer Scott Holmes.
I am Cameron.
We're coming at you with the old 2002 The Thing video game.
Oh, you have a copy?
Yeah, this is my original copy from way back in the day. Literally
Right.
played probably in about 2002. I love how it's got like the featuring After Me by Saliva. It's just one of those ones like, yeah, I'm pretty sure everybody who likes The Thing is like, boy, I can't wait to get that soundtrack on there.
Oh, yeah.
They're treating it like it's like one of those like action movies of the time.
Yeah, exactly.
But yeah, no, I got that original version, which, way back in the day, I remember when this thing first came out, just getting really excited about it and everything like that. And me and RJ from Old Man Orange and the other Silent Evil podcast back in the day, but we got this one and just played the living daylights out of it when it first kind of came out and so on, and just the whole, loving the thing already as is from the movie and all this stuff around it, and the fact that this game is a pure sequel to the John Carpenter's The Thing movie. Got to be specific because there's that one, then there's the original Thing from the 50s,
right?
And then there's there's the other one that's actually kind of a neat one that kind of came and went, but there's that Thing movie, the prequel one, which for some reason they just call it The Thing to make it more confusing, but they just call it Thing Zero or something like that. I don't know.
Yeah, there you go. There you go.
But there's that one that came out in 2011. That I've just watched both of those ones too, just to kind of go along with the game and everything like that. And they all, well, I mean, The Thing I think is one of the best horror movies of all time. I think that's probably John Carpenter's like opus. Like there's everything's firing all cylinders, and he's got so many great movies. But that one, it's unreal how good it is. Every time you watch it, you just go, oh, it's just a masterpiece.
Oh yeah, and that's ultimately what I did too. Is directly after completion of this, I was like, it's been a while since I've seen The Thing and whatnot, and like you just tend to forget like how good the especially like just like visual effects and things that they're like practical effects rather, like that they added into that movie, and just like how cool the monster designs are, and just the way that they filmed it and everything, and to play into this game and whatnot too, being like a sequel. It was so fun to like see like the ending of The Thing, the movie, like knowing that the game starts like pretty much immediately afterwards, or whatever. So like, yeah, really, really neat tie-ins, but even back then, like, I remember this game, I remember seeing it on the shelf at Blockbuster, and like, thinking about potential rental and whatever, but I just like really wasn't into horror back then, like at all. So like, I just completely missed this. So this is my first run at this game ever. So.
Well, nowadays I think with that Nightdive Studios version of it, like they have a great remaster. Which really, Nightdive Studios is one of those ones I get excited whenever they have a remaster of something, because everything they've done has been like pure fantastic versions. They just take an old game. It's like, here it is, just a little bit smoother, looks better, and plays better. Got all the controls dialed in and everything like that. Whatever you need, boom, it's ready to go. Yeah. And I mean, I think I have like 40 of their games. It seems like.
Really?
It's like if I see a Nightdive Studio, it's like, sure, okay, because like they just make all the cool. They take like all those old first-person shooters for the most part and make really good modern versions of those. And then when they did The Thing, I was like, oh, I got to get this too. And then lo and behold, it took a moment to get around to it, but. Strange enough, this is like literally been one of the ones that I've been wanting to do a Silent Evil podcast on since like day one. Like when I think about that, when I think of my initial list, The Thing was one of those games where it's like at some point I'd like to go back and play through that again, because it's been such a while, and I just remember it being really fantastic. The atmosphere in it, the snowy environments, which I always dig snowy environments, whether that be for like the settings and all that kind of stuff. And you don't really get that too much in survival horror. The only thing I can think of is in Resident Evil Code Veronica, of course, you have that, on like the second disc when you get to Antarctica. There's that game Cold Fear that actually I think takes place all in like a snowy environment. Yeah. Which is, I want to say that was the last one made by the team that did the Alone in the Dark, The New Nightmare.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
So they did that, and then they're like, get out of here, you.
Yeah. No, I've always been into the snow-based environments, too. And, like, you just made me think of one, and I can't remember what the hell it's called anymore. But a lot of like the way that this game plays, anyways, like it's so funny because like I literally have been playing through some of the Siphon Filter games
so
on
good.
the PS1, and like this game reminds me so much of like in gameplay, anyways. You know, of how you move your character and the shooting mechanics, third person, all that. Like it just reminds me of Siphon Filter, you know, especially with the auto aim mechanics and all that stuff too. You know, so. But,
well, Siphon Filter was the definitive third-person shooting game for the longest time, so it makes sense that the game kind of like captures some of those vibes in there and so on like that. Because if you're looking like what's the best way to, or what's the best kind of engine and style to make a third-person shooter, well, Siphon Filter. There we go. You know.
Yep. And what's the? It came way later than this, but the Capcom game. Where it's a third-person shooter. You're in the snow.
Oh,
and
Lost Planet.
Lost Planet. Yeah,
that's another one. I think I own all three of those. Never have played them, but I have good intentions.
Yeah, I remember the original one the most. I played a little bit of the second one. I didn't even know there was a third sequel. So
yeah, they're like those ones that like I just ran across them on sales, and it's like $5, sure, okay, I'll buy all these, you know. And there's like so many things, you have all these good intentions to play them, and you never get around to them.
That's why I have 700 plus games in my Steam library right now. Is because of that, you know.
Yeah.
Thanks, Humble.
Yeah, you get those, and so it's just like my GOG library is like 250 just because Amazon always has free games. I'm like, well, throw it on the list. You know what I mean? Put another one on there. Sure, why not?
Yep.
You know, but I'm glad we finally sat down and got into the Thing game. You know, because I still think it actually holds up pretty strong. It's one of those ones, if you weren't really into the movie and you just came in this game like super way late and you weren't used to maybe old games, it might feel a little bit archaic, I will say. There is some things in there that is, you are playing a PS2 game and an early PS2 / Xbox original game at that. But, you know, I still think a lot of the horror elements hold up. I think the whole fact of having the squad, which that was the biggest thing about the game, is you have this whole team of guys and so on like that, and you got to kind of maintain and, you know, keep them going, keep their sanity up, make them feel happy and so on like that, so that they don't turn on you. There's a fear-based system and everything. And one, I don't think I ever saw that in a game before this. I'm not saying this is the first game that ever did this, but I've never. This was definitely my first experience at having a squad game that you had to like take care of, and they helped you out and so on like that. Even the fact of just having somebody along with you was like kind of an uncommon thing at this time period.
Yeah, and I think that they played into that system pretty well. I loved that. You know, in order to tell if like the psyche of your teammates or whatever, it's you pull up that little menu, you know, the little scroll wheel menu thing, and like you physically like see them like shaking real bad and stuff, you know, like they're freaking out,
freaking out. Just his head.
You know, and it's like it's goofy nowadays, you know, looking at it through a 2025 lens, you know, but you know, just to have visual feedback like that and whatnot, I thought was uber cool. You know, that paired with like this like class system thing, you know, so you have your medic, your assault guy, and your engineer, you know, essentially. And I thought, I mean, like they didn't really use that so often, you know, like it was actually kind of rare that I had 3 people with me at any given time outside of like the intro, you know, like for the most part I usually had like 1, maybe 2 people with me. But,
and there was only one scene that I had 4 guys with me, and that didn't last that long.
Right. You know, so but yeah, no, I thought that it's definitely the highlight of the game for me was that whole team-based, you know, like psyche system and whatnot. You know, I thought that was super neat.
Yeah, no, I think that's definitely what stands out. The funny thing is, it's in the tutorial, like when they have like those little like windows that pop up in the very beginning of the game when they're just telling you how everything works. They talk about like, okay, you have an engineer, a medic, and a soldier and whatnot like that, and you can tell each of these guys by their hats. I love how like about like 2 levels later on, that most of the guys don't even have hats on anymore.
Yeah, exactly.
Just like, well, why even have that if they're just gonna change that out on me?
Yep. Well, that's what's funny too, especially like post game research after I completed it, you know, because like I'm thank God, like there's a channel on YouTube that takes old games versus remaster games and just shows you side by side comparisons, you know, as you're moving through and whatnot. Surprisingly, Nightdive really didn't take out a whole lot in this game. Like, I mean, ultimately, all they really did is they upscaled everything to, you know, match like modern resolutions. added in some shadow and lighting, like features and whatever engine they ported this into or whatever. And like, that's basically it. Like, outside of like character models, like you're talking about, the original game, like the medic had like this massive, like, red cross on his back, like at all times or whatever, in this game now it's just like a little patch on his chest, like it's like, okay, I can see the modernization of that, like I thought that was pretty neat. So
yeah, well, on your PS2 on a 22-inch CRT TV, right, you want to see that medic guy from a distance before you pull the trigger. Right. The other thing they did do a lot of like hotkey kind of stuff in here, like, because you could switch with like just the D-pad. I don't know, you're playing mouse and keyboard, but you could switch between the flamethrower and the machine gun really quickly. I don't think that was in the PS2 one. Really? Maybe it was. It's been a moment, but I felt like you always had to like switch it, kind of more manually and so on. Same thing, they put like an auto thing for like your health thing, which means I press that more often than I needed to accidentally. Yeah. Yep. That's the other thing sometimes I don't like about when there's like an auto health button, is because then you go, damn it, no, it wasn't left on the D-pad, it's right on the D-pad, I need to press. Well, too bad, now I use that health pack up. There it goes.
Right. Health packs in this game, just pickups in general in this game, really confused me just because I didn't fully comprehend right off the rip of this game. It tosses so many tutorial messages at you. It's just like bam, 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 like, and like you're expected to read it, comprehend it, understand it, and move forward. I didn't fully understand like the whole like, oh, if I give my teammate a weapon and some ammo, like he's gonna trust me more and he'll do what I say and his psyche will go down and blah 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 and this, that, and the other. Didn't like fully comprehend all that. So the very first time I come across like a med bay station or whatever, I'm like, holy fuck, I can carry 10 med packs? Like, why? Why? Why can I hold 500 rounds of MP5 ammo? Like, what the fuck?
You're supposed to share it, damn it.
Right, exactly. So like you figure that out as you move through. But a whole bunch of the early portion of this game, like just picking up items and like seeing the quantity of shit, I was just like, holy fuck. I was like, Jesus, this game's really holding your hand here, but no, it's not the case.
Well, it's that funny thing that like you do take for, you think about it, like, because in those old games when they just like dump a bunch of stuff on you and then you have questions later on, there's no real way. They used to give you something that told you if you had questions later on, you could look them up. You always kind of forget about that in older games, but like that was why you had the manual. Like, wait a second, let me pull this out.
One brief comment. The funniest thing I've seen in this game so far, and in most games in general. There's a tutorial about the tutorial in this game. There's a message that pops up that explains what a tutorial is, and I'm like, okay, guys, like, this is a bit much, please. So.
The only thing I always kind of wonder was when you have something like a movie-based game like The Thing, is, especially in 2002, the only thing I can guess is that they're thinking that, like, you know what, this might sell to a broader audience, so there might be some like 40 and 50-year-olds that like the movie enough that they'll pick the game up, but we need to kind of explain to them how like games have worked since the Atari.
Right, exactly.
Sometimes I always kind of wonder if that's kind of the case there, That's always one of the things that always kind of bothers me in video games when I think about is you have a mature rated game, which assumes that you've probably played other video games in the past. I like to assume that you've worked your way up to mature rated. You didn't just start with day one with a game, and I like, in my mind, I assume that, if you're playing a mature game, you kind of probably know at least the good ground basics of how video games work and so on. Right. So it's like, when certain games have to give you that tutorial like every 10 feet that you're like, oh, this is how you open a door. This is how you reload. This is like, dude, if this was maybe like an like a early childhood game, they haven't used that rating in a long time, but like one of those ones, I would get it, but like, it's like, if you don't know how to reload by this point, like
right, and this is a case of a game too. So like, I originally, like, we bought this game, like, or at least I bought this game on Steam a couple months ago, in anticipation of playing it for the podcast. And I downloaded it that night and I played like 20 minutes of it just to see what it was and see how it played and whatnot. Just kind of wrap my head around it or whatever. Upon this playthrough, so like back then, that's where I recognized the tutorial messages and how much there were. So this time, I like actually spent the time to read through it. Arguably, the amount of verbiage that are in those tutorials actually confused me more so than worse than if I hadn't read them, because of things like, it wants you to go up and talk to the engineer, and the engineer wants to, go fix the panel thing or whatever, like fix the electrical panel on the wall. I'm curious if the original game had it to where like you could like talk, you know, to that person or whatever and say go fix that panel, as compared to now, unless it's the same now. But in this remaster version, it's like you just like if that NPC is nearby that panel, he's got a little question mark that pops up over his head. You walk up, you hit A, and he goes, "Yep, I'll fix it," and he just walks over and fixes it. But the way that the tutorial messages explain it, it seems like it's a hell of a lot more in depth than that. Like you physically have to say, "Hey, you go there, touch that, do that thing," you know. And it's like, no, you just walk up and hit an A, you know. Like that's literally.
Well, yeah, because it's like for the longest time I was doing the thing where when I needed to do the work on the panel, I would go into the menu, I'd hold, you know, or I'd go into like your characters menu, I click on that dude, and then there'd just be this wheel, and there'd be like 9 things in that wheel, and very rarely would there be more than like 2 or 3 things in that. You know, for some reason, there's going to be one of these days where the guy has 9 panels to work on for you.
Right. You know,
which I remember the one time that there was 3 panels. I'm like, well, which panel is he going to? And of course, I click one, he starts running God knows where, and you're like, oh, geez, don't just go running alpha. I don't know where you're going to go. You're going to get lost. You're going to get killed. You're going to go stand out in the cold.
Yep.
And not figure out how to get back inside.
Yeah, exactly.
You know, and then I realized, I'm like, oh, I can also do the thing where I just talk to the dude when he's right there with the little icon, which I do think those icons might have been in the original one.
Okay. Yeah, I'd be really curious to find out if that was an original feature, if that's a remastered feature or something, just because, like I said, like the tutorial message versus what actual reality is like night and day. So.
Well, that, and yeah, it tells you it, and you're like, cool, yeah, whatever. And then by the time you need it to work, you're like, wait, what was that again?
Right. Mm-hmm.
And there's no going back to it, which, you know, once again, like I could only refer to that Silent Hill F as being like probably one of the best notebook systems I've ever seen. I know that game's brand new, but you know, I just think about that one. It's like, if you forgot something, no worries. It's all covered for you. Just pull up that notebook. Hinoko's wrote it down for you. You know, it'll be highlighted so you know right where it's at.
Yeah, exactly. It's labeled well. It's easy to read. It's like,
It's just because it's because she's a Japanese scroll girl. She's put together really nicely, not like some like American kid who's just like stuffed all his notes in like the bottom of his backpack. It's like you're translating hieroglyphs and all that kind of stuff, but yeah, I know. Other than some of that stuff and kind of get the bearings going and so on. Once you kind of get that all down, and you're like, okay, here we go, we're doing fine. Then it kind of takes off, and you're like, those tutorials they're not really there after like that first maybe level or something like that. They just kind of give you a lot of details all at once. Yeah, but it almost needed somebody just to simplify it slightly. I felt like they needed to make it wordy so that like they want people to understand it, but sometimes making it longer almost makes it more confusing.
Yeah. Even like in this, it'll insanely gamify it, you know. But I mean, mechanics are mechanics. But just throw a narrator on or something, you know, for like something like that, like further explain it, you know, or at least show like some kind of like preview or something of like, you know, like a short little MOV, you know, of just like, here's what you do, you know, instead of just text. So, but again, I mean, whatever.
Yeah, as I said, it's kind of the small thing there and so on. But you know, once you kind of get going, you know, you got your main dude and so on like that, and you're part of like the rescue team, and it's got this sort of like Resident Evil kind of vibe. There's an Alpha and Bravo team and whatnot, and of course, I believe you're Alpha team, and then Bravo team's lost, or it's the other way around. I can't remember if it's there. But one of the other teams is lost, and you're kind of like, okay, well, we're going to go kind of search this out. We got to find out what kind of happened here. We're going to search both the Norwegian camp and the Americans and so on like that. You got your team of guys, and none of them want to be there. The whole time they're telling you, like, this sucks, man. I don't want to be here. I want to go home. Yeah, it's cool, man. Like, Antarctica. This is nothing what I was expecting Antarctica to be.
Yeah. It's like, come on, guys.
You know, it's like you're sitting in there, and these guys are just like, that's the last thing they want to do. But I do love as you kind of go on, though, and you start seeing more horrific things. You see, like, dead bodies and everything like that, and your guys start to freak out and so on like that, and monsters start to slowly peer out. It does take a moment because it kind of builds and so on. It's got a lot of good tension. You're going through, like, all the destroyed, you know, encampments and so on like that, and research facilities.
I think that's probably, like, one of my more favorite parts of this game is how quiet this first, like, chapter is, really. Like, there's really not a whole lot going on other than you just exploring, trying to find, you know, like where this other team went or whatever. But again, like retrospectively, like watching the film after playing the game or whatever, and then going back and just playing the first mission again. Like just seeing the American camp, you know, the way that it was left right at the end of the movie, you know, it's just like everything's destroyed and burning up and blah, 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 and this, that, and the other, you know, and like, now and then you show up. Even like cool little, like this might happen in chapter 2, so I might get a little bit ahead of ourselves, but like even like coming across like the little shack at the end where McCready and, forgot the dude's name. It's the black dude.
Childs.
At the end
Yeah, Keith David,
Mm-hmm.
the Orbiter.
Right. And like in the game, finding that shack where they both died, you know, and you see Childs' body is like still sitting there and McCready's gone. So you're like, you know, like what happened there?
Yeah,
So,
what happened? Yeah.
So another tie-in, you know, but like movie tie-in type thing, you know, like there's so much of that in this game that I thought was just awesome, you know.
Well, in this kind of era was sort of a good slightly like comeback era of like the video game movies, because I know on PS2 they did a lot of like, they almost did movie or video games that were made for like clearly like a couple generations back. Because I mean, one, you had the Thing, but the Thing, you know, at this point the Thing was only like almost 20 years old. I guess it was exactly 20 years old by now, because I think 82 was when the other one came out. This is 2002, so it's 20 years old. So it doesn't seem that radically like, you know, far back. But then they started doing other games, like they did like the Great Escape game, which I mean I thought was really cool. But like, here's a Steve McQueen movie from like 62. You know, and you know, they did like the Godfather game at this time period, and of course the Scarface one. And it's that thing that I know there used to be like a big stigma that like movie games were always bad, which I always thought was kind of dumb, because I was like, I've played a copious amount of movie games throughout my entire life, and I think the majority of them are actually pretty good. Maybe, you know, not like amazing games. Maybe they're only good for like a while, but like I always thought at least like 3/4 of them were. I feel like the ones that are bad, like, yeah, they stand out. Like when there is a bad one, it is, but that's not all of them, you know. And that even goes back to like NES and Super Nintendo and Genesis stuff. I think a lot of the movie games on there are great. You know, they might be kind of short. That might be the biggest like complaint.
So
but
there's two things with movie games in general that you can say pretty much about any of them. They're short and they're very formulaic. Like the Incredibles 2 PS2 game versus Ratatouille, the PS2 game, basically are the same fucking game. They're just different skinned, you know, like they're both platformers, you collect-a-thon type things to the set and the other. This game, though, on the other hand, is so unique. Like, and I think that's why, like, you know, to your comments about like, you know, movie games in general, usually having like a negative outlook on it, this one just superseded all that. Like, I was vastly impressed, like going into it, going like, oh, this is not that I expected a cartoony, you know, Ratatouille style PS2 game, but, you know, like at the same time, like, you know, most movie games in my mind very much are like that. This one took me by surprise, though. I was stoked.
And this is what I was going to say, what made that PS2 era kind of good, because then they started making movie games that were not like based around a movie that just came out, and they had like that time, you know, deadline. Because that's the biggest problem that happens in movie games, is you go like, yo, you got 6 months and it's got to be out, like, you know, unless it's 007. For some reason, GoldenEye, like, because that's like one of the weirdest things you think about. The game came out 2 years after the movie. Could you imagine that? Like any other time in life, that'd be like, that would be like, that's okay. You take those extra 2 years. You know, if that wasn't 007, like that movie could be so forgotten if you think about like if it was anything else.
Oh yeah.
You know, but I think like in the 2000s, they made a lot of, you know, movie games that were based off movies that have, you know, 20 years old. Once again, Scarface, Godfather, The Thing, you know, Warriors even, and so on like that. So I felt like they could put more time and effort into them and make them, you know, pretty decent games and pretty unique and so on. And The Thing kind of like is the one that kind of, I feel like, you know, starts that trail off, because it's right early on and then some other ones follow after it. But the fact it's like, hey, we're going to take a survival horror kind of style thing, but it's not going to play like just a normal survival horror. We're going to add in the squad-basedness. It's going to be a little bit more action horror, yet still has the scares and all kinds of stuff in there. Because, you know, once you got those Thing monsters and watching your teammates, you know, transform and all that kind of stuff on you.
Yep. Yeah, and similar, you know, to other games that we played, like I would almost just drop survival out of this entirely. Like there's not too much of it, you know. I mean, like other than I think it's closest tied to survival horror is its resource management. But again, like with the overwhelming amount of resource, I mean, and granted, I played on easy, so that very well could have been it too. But like, dude, the overwhelming amount of resources this game gave me was just unreal. up until the very end, like the very like last mission or two, like you don't get nothing, dude. So it's like, you have to bank up, and you could like, I could see like how you can almost soft lock yourself, like into like a hard stop, like at the end of the game if you didn't plan for it, if you didn't have enough, medical supplies or enough ammo or whatever, so. But
well, yeah, because I played the game on normal, and I was like, oh, the normal felt like it was on easy mode, like, because it is almost, other than like a couple moments, there's a couple moments in here that you might get kind of screwed when you're on the hard and extra hard difficulty. I would say that probably if I went back to play this game again and I didn't forget, because probably I'll play it in like 20 years, so I'll totally forget about this. I'll play it on normal once again. But I would probably put it on hard, because I feel like that would probably be the little bit more balanced part, because that was the same thing too. I always felt like it was one of those games where, like, for the most part, I was angry if my med packs weren't maxed out. You know what I mean? Like, oh man, I'm getting kind of scared. I only got 7 of them. You got
I got 7 out of 10.
I don't know what it is when I know it's like I got to keep it totally filled to the brim, and you always kind of generally have ammo and so on like that. Though I do like there's an early part in the game where it's kind of explaining how that system works of trust and everything like that. And there's the one dude who's like, all right, following you unless you give me a gun. And then you kind of go, well, I only have one gun. And then you kind of realize, like, oh, no, I just give this dude the gun. Then he can trust me, but now I don't have a gun. But as far as this game goes, it's not a big deal, because it's like, let's be honest, computer's a better shot than me anyways.
Right.
Especially when it comes down to the little, like, head crab type enemies and so on like that, which I'm glad this game has a partial auto aim to it, because if this game didn't have an auto aim for those little bastards.
Yeah, no thanks.
No. It would be that same kind of, I mean, that's even kind of like how in Half-Life is. Like, I will say, like, the probably the most annoying enemy in Half-Life is just the standard little head crab bastards. Yep. You know what I mean? Because, like, there's so many of them, so many times it jumps and you miss, and you're like, let me go turn around and go find you.
Yep.
Sit there just clubbing it to death with that, crowbar. Like, crowbar. And funny enough, is like, I kind of forgot about this back in the day, but I actually might have played this game before I played Half-Life, to tell you the truth. Because I felt like I remember playing Half-Life like a little bit later, like 2004 or something like that. But is how much this game turns into like Half-Life about halfway into it. Like, and I totally forgot about that part, because it's like all of a sudden, you're out there, you're searching for pretty much the American team. You look at the Norwegian base as well too. You're kind of coming up with all these little notes and so on like that there. But then it turns out, like, you find out halfway through that the guy who's in charge, what the hell was that dude's name again? Wiley? No, not Wiley. This is a Mega Man villain.
Yeah, what
the heck was that dude's name? But whatever.
You kind of Whitley or something like that.
Yeah, Whiteley, something like something like that. That he's sort of like turned on you, and he's got like completely other different kind of like motivations going on here. That's like, no, we are going to take this thing and we're going to turn it into a bioweapon. He's literally got some like Albert Wesker-ness going on.
Exactly. That's the whole thing. The whole time. That's all I was thinking. I was just like, fucking Wesker, dude.
Yeah, because so much of the stuff feels like we took the thing and then we infused Resident Evil and Half-Life into this. Like, that's like the two things that it really reminds me of. Yep. Because all of a sudden you go from battling the creatures and the monsters and everything like that, and they start appearing, and there's a lot of great scenes, where they starts ramping up, and you see the buildup of all that, and you see your guys turn to the fact that, like, now you got soldiers coming in and so on like that, and they're trying to stop you because you're like, no, we're going to destroy this thing. We're not letting it leave Antarctica.
Yep. No, 100%, dude. Because like as soon as that scene happened, where it's just like, oh, now I'm fighting soldiers in just black uniforms and whatnot, and I was just like, I just rolled my eyes. I was like, okay. The neat part though is that like I tend to, because I don't play too many of these era games or whatever anymore, anyways. I forgot about Gibbs in video games in general. So like when you blow somebody up or whatever, instead of it being like nowadays where you can like blow off an arm or blow off a leg or whatever, it's just the model will just crush into like 3 or 4 different little meat chunks, with just like a blood trail spraying off of it or whatever, and I had so much fun just sitting back there in the back, like down these like long hallways with all these like, black dress soldiers or whatever, and I'm just lobbing grenades and just watching just over and over. I'm just like, hell yeah. So.
I love how the grenade was also the weapon that killed me the most. It was myself blowing myself up with those grenades. They were so deadly.
it took me a minute to figure out that like if you tap it, you're just gonna kind of lob it 5 feet in front of you or whatever. But if you hold it, then
Yeah,
you got
you
the
chuck
distance,
it.
you know? So yeah. Arguably, I think I died 3 times in the game. Once was 2 grenades. Once was to a boss. And no, sorry, I died 4 times in the game. The other 2 times were because my fucking engineer died. So
Yeah.
I had to restart.
Yeah, there was a couple of those ones where like the guy, because there's a couple times where it's like you got to like rush the enemy or else they're gonna kill that engineer. Like I think, and I'm supposed to say there's a medic that has that same kind of issue too. There's a couple times where I just kind of restarted because like those guys got messed up. But there's like the area when you're in like the research lab farther on where you don't have any weapons or anything like that. And I was like, I just about killed that guy. Let's just restart that and try that one more time.
Yep.
You know, and then other than that, killing myself. I probably killed myself about 3 times with those grenades. I killed myself with the grenade launcher too, which I did. I turned out I'm like, I'm not using this. This is just asking for trouble.
Yeah. Yep.
So some games like grenades just do, or like grenade launchers do not pan out in them.
Yeah.
So tight corridors and everything like that, nope.
Yep.
Fast moving enemies, yeah.
Yep. But it's like part of the combat model too. So like I basically just played this game with the MP5 and the flamethrower. Like that was my 2 primary weapons. I just dumped everything else that I was picking up to the other characters and whatever. There's not a lot of gun feedback in this game. Like it's so floaty, you know, like even when you have like the shotgun, you know, it's just like, you know, you have those like little head crab looking things rushing at you or whatever. The way that the targeting is like, you know, grabbing them all or whatever, you're just like bam, 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 bam. But like there's no visual feedback like whatsoever. It's just like they're just running at you and all of a sudden they're upside down and they melt into the floor and like that's it. You know, it's like
Yeah, you're like, okay, guy's dead.
Okay.
Yeah, I don't know how many times I extra shoot enemies until you realize it's like, oh, it is dead already.
Yeah.
You know? Yeah, I kind of learned that too, that like the best thing to do was just to keep the machine gun for myself and literally give the shotguns worked really good for your like you know, for all your followers and so on like that, because they had like dead eye aim, you know, probably realistic. I even though I held onto the sniper rifle just because for the fact that like your guys don't stick with you the whole time. If they stuck with you a little bit longer, I wouldn't feel so afraid to give them certain things. But you know, like I said, maybe you pick up. I think you do pick up a couple extra snappers, but like I bet you they would be a dead eye shot with that too.
Oh yeah, no, they were absolutely. There's a really funny comment too. So like after I finished the game, I went back and I love this era just to go back and go review like the game fact forums, you know, of this game and like the reviews, like the walkthroughs and all that. There's a hilarious one from like the dude wrote it in 2002 or whatever. And it's that old text-based style, you know. Like
those are my favorite. I love those.
Right.
Like I know that's that thing that like there's probably a lot of people look at that and go, "How the hell do you even use this for a review?" I'm like, back in the day, that was it. So I'm so used to those kind that like especially when the guy does them really nicely and they're spaced out. They're not just like ginormous paragraphs.
Yep. So he comments that from your very first team that you get, you know, so you get your engineer, your assault guy, and you get your medic or whatever. At the end of that section of you playing with them or whatever, they all leave. So like all the weapons, all the ammo, all the crap you gave them at that point like mean nothing because they take it with them, and then you go through a cutscene and then you pop into the Norwegian base and you don't have any of that shit on you anymore. So he very clearly says like, he goes, you know, like, yeah, they're gonna be upset, yeah, they're gonna get mad at you, but take their shit so you can take it to chapter 2 basically, because you're never gonna see them again, you know, and whatnot. So I just find things like that hilarious. So
yeah, well, that's what I always like is that was like the fun thing about those game facts like guides back in the day is, you know, people kind of had their own wit and humor, and you could kind of tell like halfway into when you're reading one, like, oh, this guy's an English guy or this guy's from Australia, you know, and there'll be just certain things in there, and that's what I love about them. That's why when I pull up a guide, that's the guide I generally want. You know, I did look at the guide just because sometimes it's you'll find found the Prima guide on Internet Archives, and I was like, okay. Because sometimes you'll pull those ones up and they'll have kind of cool behind the scenes type stuff or like some extra bonuses. This one technically didn't have that much of it in there, but I still kind of used it as a little refresher thing today. But it was still kind of neat to kind of see that, and you know those were always cool too. But I'm gonna say that is one of the things that is kind of a little bit of a bummer in this game is because it uses that level based system, which there's nothing wrong with that. But the fact that your guys just disappear and so on like that, it's kind of. I think your guys should just stay with you until they finally die. You know what I mean? Yeah. I think it's weird that they kind of go in and out and you're just switching through these guys and you have no real attachment to them. I mean, you have attachment because you want them. You want guy. You'll take anybody there. You don't really care, but you know.
so like the next mechanic that we'll get into is like the blood draw mechanic. So you can walk up to any person or whatever, you take some blood from him, and like it'll tell you if he's a thing or not. You can do it to yourself, to like improve your party psyche and whatnot. I like it's a cool thought for a system and whatnot, but like every single time that one of my guys turns, like into a monster or whatever, into the thing, it didn't matter at that point because like, and again, maybe it's because of the difficulty I'm playing on, but like I was so self-sufficient and was so overloaded with, med packs and ammo and weapons and stuff. It's just like, oh, you turn. Okay. Take you out real quick. Like whatever, just keep moving, as long as it's not my engineer. Like that was like the number one thing. Like, as long as
yeah. Cause that's like the only thing you can't do is you can't, it's like your character can hack like light things, but he can't hack anything above like a light panel, right. Where like, the medic, it's like he's nice to have because he always keeps bringing free med packs. Cool, or the soldier's kind of the most useless. I mean, he's not useless, but he doesn't have anything that you can't do. Right. He can just carry an extra gun. But yeah, that was always kind of the thing. And then I also kind of read a little bit later. I don't know if it was in that guide or just even like on the Wikipedia page, but like they wanted to have where like it was going to be totally random, like if your guys get infected or something like that, if they get attacked too much and so on. But just trying to make the game structured and everything like that, it turns out that like that can happen very rarely. But for the most part, it's like the only guys that turn on you, it's like because it's a cutscene that pretty much is supposed to happen. Right. So it's like it does, because they say it's like you can literally test the guy, he's totally fine. 5 minutes later, there's a cutscene, boom, he's infected. Yeah. It seemed like for the most part, like you just use that blood draw just on yourself, just when somebody was being like, they were just not like had no faith in you. Be like, I'll give you faith. It's like, here we go.
Well, I'd like to think in like a reimagining of this, like if they were able to just like go and redo this again, I would have loved exactly what you're saying. Like have your party with you majority of the game. Start off, like you all come in as a quad group, like on that helicopter, you land at the American base, you start working your way through. And have those characters stick with you throughout majority of the game, because then you can build into the tension of character versus character uncertainties. You can play into that psyche a hell of a lot more, and like is my medic really a thing or is he not? Just always having that in the back of your head, because in its current system right now, again, like every time it happened, I was like, oh, that sucks, kill it, move on. It didn't really mean anything, so
yeah, it's like one of those ones you don't have the most amount of tie to those ones. And granted, like I give this game a total pass for the fact that it's the one that breaks the ice in this like ground, but it's one of those ones where, strangely enough, it's like I never really saw this system being implemented more on other games past it. It's even like the squad based thing, like that felt like that was kind of like a feature that was like really prevalent in certain games in like the 2000s. Like, because I was thinking like there was the Star Wars Rogue Command or Republic Commando. The one that was like the Halo one, the Star Wars one, because that one had like a pretty decent like squad-based system in it, and that was all how it was based. And it's like if you didn't play the game squad-based wise, good luck. It's like those guys need commands and so on. On PlayStation, you had SOCOM, Navy SEALs. That was a cool one. And then it's like
Ghost Recon, like all those
Ghost
old
Recon
Tom Clancy games.
And then it kind of like it felt like that feature sort of. I'm not saying that there's if you look hard, there's going to be still a game out there that has it, but like
of course.
It really just kind of faded out in like the 360 era, like I just remember not really seeing it anymore. And perfect example is there's some games in 360 that start off and you have like commands, and then by like 2 and 3, it's like that feature's not even there. I think like Gears of War even has it like just partially in the first one. Like it's a very, very light one, like attack, defend, like one of those ones, but it's not in any of the other ones.
Yeah. Yep. Yeah, I don't. Because I'm even trying to think of like newer games that have anything close to this. I think you're right, man. I think under a microscope you'll find it.
If you looked on Steam, I know for a fact somebody has a game that's all like very highly detailed squad based. Yep. I guess one of the big ones is that they replaced this feature with multiplayer, I guess, is where you dictate to your friends what you're supposed to do.
Right.
Your so-called friends are now like, you go out there, I don't trust you anymore.
Yep.
We're gonna need to do a blood test.
Yep.
But it's one of those ones that's like, I always thought this was such a cool feature, and I don't know why like it just never stuck around. It's the same way when I think of Star Wars Republic Commando, I wish there was a sequel of that one too, because I think they could have really expanded on that system.
Oh yeah. No, like I said, I could totally see this being redone in 20 different ways to kind of meet more like modern times. But for what it is and the era that it comes from, I definitely think like it's wonderful in general. Like I said, even just like the different states of your characters, because like when you pull up that screen and like they're fine if they're just kind of just looking to the left, looking to the right, just kind of just hanging out, and then you kind of start to see like a little bit of fear in them or whatever. But when they go batshit, dude, I never actually got to that point because I got an achievement at the end of the game where it's just like you stop people from going crazy, like essentially paraphrasing there. But there's an achievement to not allow any of your party members to go fully to like freaked out, or whatever. So like in post research, like actually seeing what that animation actually looks like in like the short little video you sent me, that dude or whatever just sitting there just shaking like crazy. It's hilarious to me.
Well, the funny thing too is if the guy does kind of freak out, it's interesting because all of a sudden you're just walking along, and then you start hearing gunfire, and you're like, "What the fuck's going on?" Yep. And then it's like, "Oh, you're not shooting at anything. The guy starts shooting at the walls and everything like that, like thinking that there's something in the room, and then eventually he'll start shooting at us and so on like that." It's kind of cool, and like he can also have like I never saw this, but I read this in the strategy guide. They can also sometimes die from a heart attack too. Really? If they get too freaked out. Yeah. So it's like that's the thing. There's all these little things that like this is one of those few games that I think would actually be kind of cool to play on the really hard mode, because I think that would make all those elements really stand out and really become a factor. The only downfall is that there's a couple points in this game where I feel like on the really hard mode, you would be like, "Jeez, it's going to be so hard. It'll be fine. All of a sudden, it's just extremely hard."
Yeah. There's multiple points even on easy. Trying to think of like an example of one. There's a room that you have to physically drop down into. It's a bit later in the game, but there's a room that you have to physically drop down into, and there's 3 of the transformed things, down in that room or whatever. And on top of that, a bunch of like the head crab looking things too, So like that was hectic, and
like, and you're by yourself.
Like, right.
Or the ones where there's the sentry guns too. That one where you have to literally step in front of a sentry gun to flip the switch to turn it off.
Yep.
It's like the most unpractical way to turn one off.
Yep. There's a bunch of that for sure. Yeah, I mean, like I really like that element too of like the small guys, like you can just shoot them up, and like they disappear after a little while after laying on the floor and whatnot. But like the larger guys, I actually really enjoyed the whole like shoot them until they're hurt enough and then light them on fire. Like I thought that was like a cool combo, mix type thing, because a lot of what I was doing is like my medic, like I would just give him the flamethrower and I would sit there with the machine gun just until like the little icon like made it to red, and then the little flame icon popped up and it's like, all right, but do your thing, and just sprayed them down. That's it.
Have at it.
But to have
that's one of the cool things about it though.
A small mechanic like that.
Yeah. But I think that is one of the things is like your guys are really good at the guns. I think that's one of the best parts about it. Like you can actually trust those guys to like keep the peace real well by shooting and just giving them almost like the best stuff, and then you just kind of do all the managing type thing.
Yep.
And I think that is kind of neat. I will say this is one of those few games or one of these mini games that we always talk about where I wish it did have a map in it, though. It's one of those ones. I know that once in a blue moon you run across one on the wall. I'm like, that doesn't count. That's not the map I want.
Yeah, this game doesn't leave a ton of opportunity for you to get lost, but there are a handful of those open sections that I was turned around. Like I was just running in circles until I found the door that I missed 20 times over just because it's in a dark part of the hallway, or whatever.
Yep.
So
yeah, there's a couple parts where I was just running circles, and I was like, where, I'm not going that. You're not that far out because everything's kind of level based, but just enough to be kind of a little bit of a pain.
Well, and that's one other comment that I'll toss. and it's a negative comment, but like one of the things that I noticed too that was driving me absolutely bonkers was my teammates out in some of those open sections or whatever, because all it would take is them to just get caught on some piece of geometry somewhere. And like I just wouldn't be paying attention. I just continue on. I go through my door, I make it to the thing that I need to, and like get to the panel, and then like, where's my engineer? Like, what the fuck? You know, and like have to turn around, backtrack, and whatnot. What would have been cool is if they would have played, you know, something into like a mechanic like that, where your teammates can just kind of randomly drop off your formation or whatever, you know, and then you have those tense moments of like, are you the thing? You know, do I test your blood? Do I do, you know, like, and just add more tension, more mechanics like that. I thought it would have been neat. Obviously, that's not the case, and this is just dumb PS2 AI logic, but, but you know, just pathing. So,
well, yeah, that's like the one that would get me all the time is the doors. Like you'd have a door that's open, and the guy would get caught on the backside of the door, and you'd be like, okay, let's make a big old, you know, U-shaped turn around this door now to get through here. Like that happened a few times there. You know, that's like that one where I know this is like just going back in time, but that's where you almost add like a slight bit of like a teleportation thing in there. Mm-hmm. So it's like almost like if your guy gets kind of caught, just have him teleport. Like no one's gonna notice. You know.
Yeah. If the camera's not facing him, just the culling for that particular model, just you know, exactly. Just
yeah. So. Certain things. So because you'd be also run out in the be outside, and the guy would get caught on God knows what. You're outside. I don't know what he got caught on, but I'd have to do that thing where you have to stop every once in a while, turn around, look. Okay, everybody's there. Cool. Yeah. You know, because if you leave them out in the snow, they'll just die. You know, so
yep.
It's one of those ones. It's just like thanks. You know, you got stuck out there.
That's another comment that I'll toss towards the NPCs too is the fucking dialogue out of those guys, the random banter that goes on as you're fighting or as you're just, you know, moving room to room and whatnot, and just like I can't even like name like one line that I heard, but like they're just so comical, you know, just like I'll kill his ass, bud. You know, shit like that. You know, like just stupid stuff. But.
Yeah, no, they had great lines in there, so you could tell that like they just had like the same line, but they had like different voice actors read them.
Yep.
Because like all the guys will say the same things, but like it'll be read by somebody else, which is kind of just interesting.
Yep.
You know, one thing I did write this down. There's that part where there's the time bomb that you find, and you got to run out of there. And I laughed so hard because it's like it's literally a cut between one level to the next. So you're running, it's like time bomb, and you're like running, it's counting down 30 seconds. You know, you got probably like 3 guys with you, and you have to run to the elevator. You get in the elevator, and then it just shows your guy turn around and stuff, and it's like it's not meant to be like this, but like it's almost like he literally presses a button, and the other guy's just standing there like, where we going, boss? And the doors slowly close, and it just blows.
So I reran that part 3 times, thinking that I was the one screwing up in that cutscene, not understanding that our character's the only one that can go down the elevator in that cutscene. Because 3 times over, I was like, surely I'm doing something wrong, you know? And like, dude. And again, with the Gibbs in this game, because it's just hilarious. Because like as Spence is saying, like you're just standing in the elevator doors are closing. There's a massive explosion blowing through this tunnel, and it finally gets to your guys, and they just go, and then it closes. Cutscene happens, and like you're into the next level, and it's like, well, screw those guys, I guess.
Yeah, I did that same thing. I restarted that thing, and then I was messed up. I'm like, well, dude, I want my guys to go with me and so on like that. Because at this point in the game, I still wasn't too sure if you could carry guys with you per level or not. Right. And it's like, I guess I can't.
Yep.
It's almost like was by all these actions and the fact that like your team keeps getting lost between levels. The game should have almost turned out at the very end. It's like, oh, by the way, you've been infected this whole time.
Right.
And that's why you've killed all your guys.
Yep. Yeah, no, that's great, but just so many little goofy things like that. But I'm glad you noticed that cutscene too, because I was going to bring it up at some point today. So.
Yeah, well, I wrote it down in my notes because I was like, dude, that was hilarious. Because those guys, I think the expression on their face, they just like, hey, what are we doing next, boss?
Yeah.
As the door slowly closes.
Too good, man. Too good.
I do also like that, you know, once you go into like the lab area, like Resident Evil style, which I love how like I thought about this too. I'm like, when you just picture the old movie and even like the prequel one too, the fact that like, okay, they have this little research base and everything like that. there's this whole Resident Evil style laboratory that's underneath them the whole time that like nobody knows about.
Yep. The test tubes and literally everything. Like,
yeah, and like you literally have Dr. Faraday played by John Carpenter in the game, which is so cool. Down there and whatnot. It's just like I love how like he's just been down here this whole time. Like none of these guys in Antarctica know about it, you know?
Yeah. It's just so goofy, man. But yeah, no, I love that cameo. I thought it was so neat, you know, like, especially to see like John Carpenter in like a PS2 skin, you know, like he must have like 1,200 polygons at most, you know, like it's
but it looks just like him.
Yeah, exactly.
You could spot it from a mile away. It's like, that's John Carpenter. I also like this. He literally has a game coming out next year. It's like a John Carpenter's, you know, his name above the title and a brand new game. I have it wish listed or saved. Drawing a blank on what it is right off the top of my head. But I was like, that's so badass. He's still kind of like, I'm going to write a game. Because I feel like that's the thing when you get kind of older. It's like, you know what's probably easier than making a movie? It's just, how about you just write a story for a video game instead? Then you know what I mean? Like, just do that. And, you know, have everybody else put it together, and you just throw in your 2 cents here and there, and call it good.
Exactly. Yep.
So I thought that was kind of neat, you know, and then of course, lo and behold, once you do get to the very end of the game and whatnot like that, and you do chase down Whiteley or whatever the hell that dude's name was, and you realize that he has literally become like Albert Wesker. He's like injected himself with like the Thing virus or whatever. And now he's like sort of immune to it. You even go to burn him at one point in time and he's able to survive it. So I don't know what kind of virus he has in him. It's not necessarily the Thing virus because he can survive fire, which is the one thing the Thing generally doesn't. It even gets to the point where he turns into a giant monster that you got to blast out, like no different than like Resident Evil 5 almost.
Oh yeah. Yep. Yeah, it reminded me oh God, what was the was it post-trauma? At the very end, the big, large tentacle-looking thing
that slammed down on you.
That's what I was thinking of, because that's what that final boss reminded me of. You know, just large-looking tentacle-looking thing or whatever. But
yeah, except for you're in a helicopter blasting it with like the big old M60 or whatever.
Yeah,
you know, because that was always the thing, especially for like that time period too, just to have, you got to have that on rails gun shooting part. You know, but the kind of neat thing is you get this cool, like once you defeat the boss and everything like that, helicopter comes, and lo and behold, who's in that helicopter? Oh, it's Kurt Russell's character RJ coming to pick you up.
Yeah.
You know, just those small things like that. You're like, oh, that's so badass, and so on like that.
Yep. No, I think like in general, I mean, like I'm super glad that we played through this. You know, it was brief enough. I do agree with you. On a next playthrough, like absolutely play this in a harder difficulty than easy, or even like you were saying, normal. The easier modes don't do this game any favors for the mechanics that it's trying to play with. But at the same time, like I don't know, I still enjoyed it well enough. Like I thought it was a fun little romper. Got it done over the course of an afternoon, you know, like 5-6 hours, something like that. You know, like it was really awesome. It's a cool game.
Yeah, no, that's the thing. It's just a nice, smooth play through. Holds up well. I still think of it being kind of one of those like pinnacle era of the survival horrors of the olden days and whatnot, or just in, you know, it's definitely a little bit more action horror, but like when it came out though, I remember like it was just as scary as Resident Evil Remake or anything like that, you know, at that time period and so on like that. You know, so it just had all like the good themes and the fact that like it does really good justice for like, you know, being a sequel to the movie and everything. Oh, the fact that Childs, Keith David's character, just dead. Like, like guy makes it all the way through the movie. You know what I mean? Especially it's 82. So the fact that like, okay, cool. You know, we got the black dude made it all the way to the very end. Oh, he's dead in the video game.
Right. Yep. Oh, that is one mechanic that we didn't describe. So super early on, like especially when you're outside in the open environments, there's a cold mechanic in this game that it's just a timer. Like that's all it is. You know, just get inside by the time this thing ticks down. Otherwise, you're gonna get some damage to your health. You know. Yeah. It could have been so many more things, you know, but ultimately at the end of the day, it's just it's a blue bar that ticks down and you you take damage if you don't get inside in time. So
the one place where that does kind of come in like a little bit more of a pain or a little bit more of a challenge is towards that very end, because you have this like onslaught to get to the final boss where you have to kill like 100 like troops that are there, but you pretty much have to go kill a couple of those guys and then run back inside to warm back up, run a little bit farther, go back, and then you do that about 3 or 4 times to kind of make it in there. You know, but yeah, and then it's like, okay, I guess like, you know, the game, you mentioned this to me through like a text where you're like, you know what would have been kind of cool is like, why was there no dog thing creatures? Which is kind of true, because that's the main thing out of all the thing stories, is the dog is always the main culprit. Even in the original 1938 book or whatever, the dog is still the culprit of them all, you know, and the fact that, you know, and it's like, I know that technically by the time the thing is done, the movie, they've killed all the dogs, you know, there's nothing left. But that doesn't, there's 10,000 thing monsters in this game that like, I'm pretty sure one of them could be a couple, you know, have some dogs.
Right. Because there really isn't many, there's not a ton of variety here. I mean, like it's like your little head crawler looking things. There's some humanoid-esque looking things, you know, that come out to you. There's slightly larger than humanoid kind of, you know, things that come out at you. And then there's like the bosses, you know, and like, I think like, especially the open ice areas, because there's fuck all going on, you know, out there. It's just, you're following the lights. Like throw in the Resident Evil, like jumps through the helicopter window and all of a sudden you got a dog thing on you now, you know, like something like that, like would have been cool, you know, to see. But
yeah, I feel that is one of those ones, like there isn't like a ton of different enemy varieties, you know, you do kind of face the same ones over and over, you know, and it's even that one where there's nothing wrong with the soldiers part, like that still is fun, but sometimes that is, when you do kind of think about it, you go, what would be better, to have the soldiers or to replace that with different thing monsters, and you just go double down on that part more than like, you know, I kind of do wonder that, like, do we want to have the, you know, it works in Half-Life, because Half-Life, it's, you know, you didn't expect it, because that's so much of that game is that things keep like layering on itself as you're going through. You're just like, I was showing up to work one day, and, you know, next thing you know, we had a disaster to another dimension, and then we had to fight our way through, and then we thought the cavalry was here to save us, but they weren't. They were here to clean it up, and that's kind of what this one's doing too. And I do kind of wonder if it would be kind of neat if there was just instead take out the soldiers. Once again, there's nothing wrong with that part. That part's still fun when you're battling the soldiers. But you could have like 2 other thing monsters in a sense in there, you know. Because even the soldiers, I guess there's just the regular soldier and then there's the flamer, you know, and that's the 2 guys you battle.
yeah, and that's exactly it. So another comment that I'll toss in this. And I don't know if it was intentional or not, but with how minimal there is of music in this game, I really feel there is so many pieces of this where you're just walking through the empty hallway with literally no noise other than your footsteps. And that's atmospheric and dark and cool. But to play into the movie, because like the movie doesn't have like a bombastic soundtrack. It's literally just like 2 notes. Dun, dun. Dun, dun. You know, like just something, you know, like, dude, I wish they would have played into that more too, because like there was way too many times where I'm just like, it's so quiet for no reason, you know, like why is it so quiet? You know. So and again, I feel like I'm just being negative at this point, but like these are just like little minor things that I think would have elevated the total experience, you know, like again, just soundtrack alone like would have been cool to have more of in this game. So
yeah, just a little bit of that, you know. I actually don't think that when I was watching the movie, I don't think that's John Carpenter actually did that soundtrack like he did for all the other ones. I think it was somebody else's on that one for some reason. But yeah, just to have a little bit of that. It's just like there's like so much minor things that like it would be cool to see. I think it's just what bothers me is the fact that it's such a cool formula that I don't know why nobody else has ever used it and expanded on it. You know what I mean? This is like it's almost like if Resident Evil 1 came out and there was nothing past that point survival horror wise. You're like, why doesn't anybody else do anything go farther with this? You know? That's how I feel like the thing kind of is. It's like it started this really cool, like different way to go about it, you know? And even in 2002, you could kind of tell that like, they're at this point where they're like, you know what, maybe we need to shuffle the survival horror thing around a bit, you know. It's like it was going strong there for like those, you know, there's about that 5-year period of like the golden age where it's just like, but everybody kind of was doing the same formula over and over, so the thing kind of broke that mold and kind of went a little bit different route with it, you know. But yeah, I would like to see more of that team-based stuff and the survival horror atmosphere. You know, the fact that the guys can freak out on you. It's a perfect example of one that would be a pretty neat for like either like a remake or just another Thing game, even if it was like a brand new story or something like that. You know what I mean? Like using that same concept of gameplay and seeing like where could you take this to now, you know, and just really have that survival.
Well, and you can look at, like, so the things from outer space to this to, like modern media and whatnot, because I mean, like when you think about games like Among Us, for example, that is a massively popular, kids game where, it's a whodunit, style, type game or whatever. I think that, the influence of not the video game, the Thing, but just the Thing in general, like the IP, the amount of value that it's brought to the gaming medium in general, just for that type of game, like I very much think, like we've been talking about, if they redid this, put a hell of a lot more emphasis into the team play, kept your teammates around a hell of a lot longer, built the relationships, make this like a light RPG for that matter, with dialogue choices and, pathings and things like that. Like there's so many cool things you could do with the Thing, remastered, remake, whatever you want to call it, but again, like I think ultimately what I'm getting at is like the IP itself is so valuable to the medium of video games that like I would love to see more of this style game, like we're talking about, with squad-based mechanics, with all this type of thing, just done in under a 2025 lens. The Thing's IP in general is just like, it's just such a cool, creepy thing. And I feel like I'm saying the Thing a lot, but like, but that's
it's
part
in the
of
title.
That's part of it. So,
well, I picture it like if you made it kind of have like, it sounds weird, but like Fire Emblem style, where it's like you have your team, and if you lose them, that's it. So like the effort you've put into like making a good relationship with them and everything like that. If one of them happens to go, there you go. You're losing one of your key members. Yeah.
Death, like XCOM. Hell yeah.
Something like that would be kind of neat. One thing I will say, there's also that scene where you find the dude up in like where you get the sniper rifle for the first time, and you find him up in the tower. It's actually kind of a ballsy scene because they actually show the dude shoot himself in the head. Because most games past this would have cut away. Because that's always one of my biggest complaints is I'll watch a game or a movie and it's like they do a cutaway. And they always try to pull that card of like, oh, it's more effective. No, it's not. You either didn't want to show it, or if you're a movie, you wanted to save some money. And you know what I mean? Like, it's that thing where it's like, I get this guy literally blows his head out right there. I'm like, there you go. More of this, less of everything else. Like, yeah, there we go. I like when it just shows it. Like, don't give me a cutaway. You know what I mean?
And to talk about the gore in this game real quick too, man. The visual design, the visual storytelling of this game, like the very first when you have all your squad mates originally, like when you get your first amount of squad mates, you go into that one building, you got to fix the one panel that turns on the lights to that room, and then all of a sudden you see that horrific mess in the corner of the room over there with the dude all splayed up against the wall and stuff. There's so much of that in this game that I thought was so cool, man. But again, it's the IP in general,
Yeah.
But to see the aftermath of the Thing's effects and stuff, it's just so badass. So,
well, that's the thing I always feel with the Thing itself, just the movie and everything. You could totally tell that's where it inspires into everything from, Resident Evil to Silent Hill and all that kind of stuff. I know in Japan they still have, monsters similar like that, like you can find in like sometimes some older mangas and so on like that as well. But the fact that like seeing it on screen and everything like that, it's so amazing how like Resident Evil like that always is, and all those things. And then when you think about the book of like in like 38, like how actually it is like in that same thing, and the fact the guy's writing about a spaceship crashing and everything like that, pre-World War II, in Antarctic, that would almost be kind of I know they made, of course, the 50s movie, but it'd almost be interesting to make the period piece one where I'd like to see it in 1938, where it's like them out there in Antarctica and just see what that's all like. Just the whole research lab and everything at that time period.
Heck yeah.
But yeah, no, overall the thing, like, it's cool that you can get this. This is one of those games I actually, when this game came out by the Nightdive version, I really didn't expect it because mostly these, once again, movie games kind of get lost in time. Like they get, console locked, the rights go away. I mean, we're getting a little bit better where like some of these ones like the Ninja Turtle collection and so on like that are kind of surprising. Like they can kind of come out. And the fact that the thing reappeared is like, oh, well, that's actually pretty sweet. It might mean that some other games might be able to have this kind of experience and so on like that, where they can be revitalized and so on.
And surprisingly, I just looked at it just now. Surprisingly, this is not a $1 billion video game on eBay. It's $20. So, heck yeah, I might actually buy that.
Yeah. What's the weirdest one is when like one game will be like on Xbox and PlayStation, and then for some reason one version's like 3 times the price of the other one. It's like that's the strangest one. And a lot of times it's not the Xbox one. The Xbox one mostly is always the cheaper one.
Yeah.
But yeah, I'm actually kind of surprised because most survival horror games in general are all expensive.
Yeah.
So the fact
that even on Steam, I mean, like if you want to buy this remastered version of it, it's $30 on Steam. I would wait on a sale, but
yeah, it goes on sale for like $20 here and there. It's fully worth $20 or whatever. Even worst case scenario, even $30 is not bad for how good it is. But that's probably about the same price as the PS2 one.
Yep.
But yeah, the thing, you combine this with all the movies and everything like that. It's just such a cool experience. It's just so unique. I just feel like I just can't think of any other game that has this same style. Like you're definitely getting something special with it. You got the whole cool partner system. You got the Antarctic setting, and everything about it. And it still holds up. The action's fun. The characters are cool. The story's kind of a neat one, too, even if it is just kind of a little bit simple. And in that kind of Half-Life Resident Evil kind of vibe, it's not a bad thing, But, yeah, check this bad boy out. Well, Cameron, you got any last parting thoughts on the whole experience or anything like that?
Play it. Absolutely play it. Again, I wouldn't pay full price for this myself. I would wait on a sale. I think it's totally valid for a $20 title or less. But yeah, in general, it's the PS2 of PS2 games that could be on a PS2. So like that's very much what this game feels like, and it's awesome. No, I loved it. I thought it was really cool. Play it.
Yeah, mostly. Yeah, it's just one of those ones like you are getting that full classic experience. One thing that's really interesting, I was gonna say this real quick, is on you probably can't see it on there, but it was produced by Konami back in the day.
Oh, really? Interesting.
Yeah. So then they had I guess the rights for the distribution or whatnot.
Okay.
I didn't notice that. I was looking at the case. I'm like, oh, that's interesting there.
Yeah,
But yeah, the thing, good times. But till then, check out more Silent Evil podcasts, Old Man Orange podcasts, all that good stuff on YouTube and Spotify. Till then, I'm Spencer Scott Holmes.
I am Cameron.
And we'll see you some other time.